I'm Nancy Bowe, and this is Brooklyn Bridge Park, a new city park on the Brooklyn waterfront, just in the process of being completed. And I am the chair of the Conservancy, which is the public partner to a city park. 20 years of public advocacy. Government had another idea for it, commercial development, and neighborhood community members came together and suggested a park instead. And it has been a 20-year process of advocacy and funding and arguing and all sorts of things. But you know, democracy is messy. And this has been democracy in action. And it's too bad that in a lot of other communities, people can't get as involved as people have been in this project here. I think sometimes this is a neighborhood of people that are always very politically active. People vote. I think sometimes people get overwhelmed by the thought of government or their frustration with government. They don't even know where to start, and they don't know how to change it, and they don't think it'll react to them. And this is an example, albeit a long-running one, that it can make a difference. Of course, what Citizens Union does is try to make the whole government process much more transparent, much more approachable, and also to inform citizens about what their rights are, what the possibilities are. So hopefully over time, we'll be able to have more and more projects like this that really do engage the community in them. And I started out in the state affairs because I do have a finance background, and Citizens Union was working at the time, and still is, to improve the transparency and effectiveness and accountability of the state budgeting process and the state financial reporting process. So that's how I got involved. And the first few years I was there, we made some real progress, but there's always lots more that needs to be done. What I like about Citizens Union is you have people coming from all walks of life to inform the decisions. And we also, from all walks of life as well as all political perspectives, we have a staff that does incredible research, and so we make decisions based on fact, on how other places do things, and just sort of generally try to take the emotion out of it. In fact, we all sort of park our partisanship at the door and come together to find the middle ground to solve the issues. Sometimes we find that what may be right for the citizenry isn't necessarily right for the incumbent politicians, and that can create difficulties. And we try to overcome that by reaching out to partners, to community groups, to try to inform people what benefits reform of government could be to them, in hopes of having them help persuade their elected officials that they need to get on board with some of the government reform. And there's a lot of vested interest in politics today. The power of incumbency is huge, and that doesn't mean that the best ideas or the best things for communities or the citizens are happening. And so Citizens Union works towards nonpartisan elections, it works towards redistricting, it works towards easy access to ballots, and also informing citizens of what their rights are and what their election choices are, in hopes that they will help us move the agenda forward. Well, to me, one of the most emblematic things that's happened is a few years ago there was a charter revision committee at this city, commission put together at this city. And Citizens Union took it very seriously and came up with close to 50 different significant reforms to government processes. Of course, the politicians in charge were really most interested in getting their term limits extended, so a lot of our suggestions, while generally thought good, fell by the wayside. But instead of just moving on to the next thing, Citizens Union has taken each of those suggestions, reached out to lawmakers, and are working one by one to get them passed as legislation. We don't stop, we keep going. And I'm very proud of that. And it sort of demonstrates to me the thoughtfulness of our positions and the doggedness with which we pursue what we think is right. Well, I've been very involved in community affairs in Brownstown, Brooklyn for years, and there are some real frustrations with how government worked. And I found Citizens Union, and what appealed to me about Citizens Union is that it is peopled by people from many walks of life, and very many different political perspectives. And it's supported by a staff that does incredible research based in fact. And to me, so much of politics is opinions, and we need more facts. We all come together with our various backgrounds and various ideas. We park our ideology at the door, and we come together to explore what's possible and what's right. Policy suggestions and legislative suggestions to improve how government works, its transparency, its accountability, access to the ballot for people, in order to try to make the way government works better. Gotham Gazette started about 10 years ago as a news source of what's happening today in the city and state government. And nothing like that existed, but other entities have come in and are doing that quite well. But what we do have to offer from those days and going forward is an ability to do really in-depth, thoughtful analysis of issues that gives people a place in this soundbite society to come and find out what an unbiased and balanced and fact-based view on issues are. And I think we're going to do that more and more. And through partnerships with other community organizations and community publications, we hope to get the word out even further. And then we have our civic conversations, and we have candidate debates that we sponsor all over the city in election years, and our webpage. So we're really trying to move out and spread the word. So this park was years and years of advocacy, and it probably would never have happened if not for the fact that the neighborhoods along it were generally well-connected people who had a very thorough understanding of government and the political process. And not every neighborhood in New York, in fact most, don't have that kind of human capital. And it isn't fair. You know, everyone should have that human capital. I think government to a lot of people is intimidating and unresponsive, and it's just too scary to even imagine that things like this can happen. So I would love for Brooklyn Bridge Park to be an example to the city for what can happen when citizens come together and work with their elected officials and work with government to try to come to the best solution. And not everybody's happy. Democracy is messy. We had to make trade-offs in this park that we would prefer not to, but it was only fair in order to not harness the rest of the city with the cost of operating this park. We have a revenue plan that involves housing, and some people are unhappy about that. But it was all part of a long, drawn-out compromise. But it was fun, and look at it. First of all, it's effective. It's nonpartisan. It seeks the middle ground, which is really the only place where things happen. It's never in the far this way or far that way. It's always it seeks the common ground. It does it based on facts, based on research, based on discussions with people from all points of view. And then almost most importantly, because there are other groups who do that, Citizens Union has a pragmatic, practical approach to making sure that the ideas get turned into legislation and policy. They don't sit on the sidelines and pontificate. We work with the government, we work with elected officials, we work with candidates, we work with citizens to try to make government better and make it really happen. We don't just criticize, we do. I think Citizens Union is very important to everybody because, as I said before, democracy is messy and there's a lot of trust in your elected officials, and some of them warrant the trust and some don't. And Citizens Union functions as a watchdog to make sure government's doing what it should be doing and the way it should be doing it, as well as thinking longer term about how do we make it more approachable to people, how do we get more people engaged in the democratic process. Because a successful democratic process democracy is really based on an informed citizenry and a transparent, responsive government. And we have a ways to go in both those cases now. Well, first of all, I think it would be great if they have access to it, they should check out the website, they should come to our civic conversations, they should come to our candidate forums, and if they have a particular interest in city or state affairs, join in. Join.